can I just take notes?
Mine was Ella. I said
Oh.
Ella Sharma.
Did you
Yeah,
say,
I
oh,
did say
sorry,
him.
okay.
I think you might
Sorry,
have
yes,
said
gotcha.
yeah.
Sorry? Did anyone else come in?
Yeah.
And also Ben Edwards.
Ben Edwards, thank you.
Yeah.
I've not got that as a name. Ben Edwards.
Photography. Not the first time someone said, no, graphic design.
Okay. Ben Edwards, yeah.
We'll unroll you quickly.
Great. Yeah, thank you very much. So yes, hopefully that's what you're expecting to be on. And that's an exciting thing to be studying, right? You know, it's you've all kind of made this decision, and you've decided to study this, and you've decided to study here. And just to sort of reiterate what a good choice you've made, as a course, 95% of our photography graduates in professional and are in professional and managerial jobs with 100% employment. The photography course is within the top 30 of the country in film and photography. I think that's a Guardian figure. That doesn't sound too great, but it's because they've kind of conflated photography with film. So I'm confident that we're much higher up than that as a photography course in relation to other purely photography courses. I would say we're in the top 15. Would you agree with that? Yeah. The university as a whole is in the top 21 of Guardian in the Guardian University Guide. So you're at a good establishment with various sort of accolades, including a gold rating for teaching excellence, which we recently achieved, and an 84% rating on the National Student Survey, the NSS. And just as a kind of aside, a recent achievement, Jessica Parsons graduated this year, and her work was selected by Source Photographic Review, a very important photographic magazine. To put this into kind of perspective, sort of 400 or 500 people applied for this to be selected by Source magazine as recent graduates, and only about 20 is it that get selected, something like that. And she was selected, but also her work was sort of singled out by Hannah Watson of Trolley Books as a particular note. And I think her work also is a really good kind of indication of how interesting photography as a subject can be, because you know, photography is a very, very difficult thing to actually define. It seems on the face of it like a very straightforward medium, but it's actually, if you try and define what it is, you know, in relation to art, science, truth, power, it's very, very tricky to actually get to grips and define actually what photography is. So Jessica's work actually, on the face of it, looks very much like images we see on a daily basis through kind of corporate imagery of staff and that we don't even notice, because like, so much of our lives is mediated photographically through photography, that photography almost becomes invisible. And yet here Jessica has kind of used photography in a very nuanced and sophisticated way to actually hold up a certain sort of situation, you know, to do with, say, society, capitalism, and the use of photography within that. By using imagery and reflecting on that in a body of work that kind of opens this up to question. So photography is quite a powerful tool, not least of which because it's hard to kind of categorize, and it kind of mediates our experiences in ways that we don't always appreciate. So you're going to learn, or you're going to be engaged in a series of sort of discussions, and you're going to engage with those debates through your own work, through your own kind of photographic practice, and hopefully develop a way that you're not just inside of this system where photography is in control of you, but you're somehow in control of that and can use your own voice photographically, so to speak, to make a difference to yourselves and in a wider sense. So that's, good reasons why you should come and study photography, and then why should you come and study photography here? These are the people you're going to be working with. So I'm just going to introduce you to these people. They might, hopefully you'll just introduce yourselves a bit. So my name's Jonathan Bagley. I'm one of the full-time academics here. We've got 3 full-time academics and 3 part-time academics. And we'll be working with you throughout the whole 3 years. Course leader for the course is Rule Paradise. So, Rule, if you want to sort of introduce yourself.
I'll introduce. Well, I'm Rule. I'm the course leader. First of all, a big welcome. I'll say a few things as course leader. So a big welcome at your first day of university, or perhaps your second day if you sort of travelled around already a little bit. You're kind of joining the course at a very exciting time, because we just went through quite a big review of the course. People came to the open days and saw the course talks. We always talk about how we keep the course very contemporary and topical. And one of the bigger things that happens at university is that every couple of years, let's say every 4 or 5 years, we really kind of revisit our entire curriculum and look at what actually needs to happen. So we've just done that. So it's not just us sort of deciding on what needs to change. It's also based on years of comments, and you'll have a chance to comment too eventually through surveys, what your peers, students and graduates actually have said about the course, what the strengths are, what we can build upon, and so forth. So that was a huge process, and quite tedious administrative part to it too, which I won't bore you with. But also a very exciting part, because now we're kind of presenting to you a new course that we know is going to work better because of the student feedback that we received. But also is sort of at the top of its contemporariness, if that's even a word. I make up words. I do. I think most of us do, isn't it? So our feedback is very interesting, but we can't really make sense of it. But anyway, and this year, level 4 is really the year I would say. It's going to go really fast, but really enjoy it, really experiment, really try new things. Okay, this is the year that you will notice when Jonathan will introduce how the structure of the year is. You kind of have these big strands going through the year. One's your photographic practices, the other one's creative, technical photographic practice, and it's really designed for you to kind of try out whatever you want and fail. If you have to kind of not fail completely, but at least there's a huge kind of opportunity to experiment, because I think a lot of you know probably what you want to do in photography, just like I knew what I wanted to do in photography when I was first year, so just like you guys know what you want to do. But I can guarantee you in a year and a half time, you probably changed your mind completely, and that's a good thing, because that meant you engaged with a lot of things within the course, and you find out that, hey, I don't just have to do this, but I can also do all of these things, and that's really important. Because we'll say this quite a lot of times, but one of the main things that you have to graduate with is with your own individual portfolio that sets you apart from your peers. You're going into an environment where people will see perhaps 10, 20 portfolios a day. So if you have a practice, if you have a portfolio with projects in it that aren't just interesting in a general sense, but they're interesting because you really engage with them and you know them really well, and you've done your research, you've done your practice. That's when people notice you, and that's when people really want to start working with you. And that's really what you're going to be doing in the next 3 years. It's not just about what you do as a photographer, but also who you are as a photographer and how you work with those images. But that's it. That's the only thing I have to say, except that the fire exits are over there and over there. And if you need the toilet, you don't need to put your hand up and sort of tell us that you need it. It's just at the end of the hallway, just like a big room. Pick any spot you like, and it's fine. No, there's another door, and then there's some toilets there that you can utilize. And that's better. Yeah, that's the way it is. Try not to sort of walk out with a big show, like like I said, stumble over a coffee cup and sort of take a few chairs with you. But that's about it. So really enjoy. There's going to be an overload of information. You're quite fresh at the moment, but I guarantee you by Thursday you'll be like, what I'm going to do with all this information. So I'm going to leave it at that. So Jonathan, you'll introduce the rest. A lovely technicians arrived too, so they're like, where can I get the kids? That's probably the first question you have. It's those guys standing at the door hiding
You
away.
can stop now.
And I'll move on. So I'll see you guys around hopefully, and good luck this year.
So yeah, thank you all.
Yeah.
So we also have Richard Holker.
Yeah, I won't
5
speak for
minutes.
anywhere. But I think I met most of you already in various things, so I want to give you a very warm welcome too. And that's all I want to say really, because I'll probably say something as part of when we get into the course structure of what we're going to teach. But I'll be teaching you on one module in the first year, so you'll see quite a lot of me in the next few weeks. But that's it.
Yeah. Thanks, Richard. I mean, don't worry about, you're going to get to know us all very well. It's going to take time. It's even worse the other way around. I'm going to get to know you very well, but it takes me a lot longer because there's a lot more of you. So, as I say, I'm Jonathan Bagley, and I'm your year coordinator. And what that means will become apparent as we go through this. But I'm basically here to help you and reassure you. So, if anything you need to know, you can come to me first. But I'm also going to give you a whole load of other people to contact because I can't cope with everyone asking me everything. But generally, if you've got a problem, it's me that I'll be sorting it out. So hopefully I can do that in a sort of friendly, reassuring way. So part-time academics, we have Leslie Hacking-Darrick.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. I'll be working with you on one module this year, and that will be the professional practice. Where we'll be doing a lot of work experience, and I'll also be sharing the year coordination with Jonathan. So anything you're unclear about, any problems, we sit in those offices here. So come and see us. And I hope you'll have a very productive journey, like in Portsmouth.
Great, thank you, Leslie. And James Allen. Over here.
I'm over here. Hello, well done for making it here. This time next week, you'll be with me in here and Richard, and we'll be starting off with creative industry skills, which is a module which we're looking at kind of your technical skills and in relation to kind of industry and some pretty basic and slightly more challenging briefs over this year. So we'll be together. It's a 40 credit module from like now until Easter. Okay, so it'll be a good opportunity for you guys to get to know me and Richard, and we can help you out with any questions you have in relation to anything pretty much in these sessions. They're quite practical, hands-on, lots of interaction. We'll be doing rather than you sitting and listening. We'll be together kind of making stuff, which will be very exciting. One bit of advice for you all: please be on time at 10 o'clock next week. Don't miss out. If you miss anything in these initial kind of weeks, you'll be doing a lot of inductions with me as well with Dave. He doesn't know too much about it yet, but he will do by Monday. If you miss those, they will really put you back. So please make sure that you adhere to your timetable, because this isn't school. So you have the freedom to come if you want, and not if you won't. But you will take out exactly what you put in. So please put in. Think about the fees you're paying. Think about your futures. Think about your careers, your aspirations, your dreams. They kind of start today. So if you start on the wrong foot, we're not going to come around knocking on your doors to get you out. So please come, right? And if you put in, you will get out, and we will do our best to enable you to do whatever you want. Okay, so be here next week, 10 o'clock. Yeah, don't not be
Thanks,
too
James.
late.
Yeah, I'll be going over the way these modules look and your timetable in a kind of very vague overview way, so you'll get to some sense of what you're going to be doing, but nothing too specific yet, and that will happen when you turn up at 10 o'clock next week, and things like that. So finally, we have Dana Ariel, who go for it, Dana.
Yes, so I'll explain about the course after.
Yeah, the unit.
Okay, so a warm welcome from me too. I will be teaching you the module Introduction to Photographic Practices and Research, which is quite a long title, but it will all make sense this week actually, so you'll see me again on Thursday. and I'll be introducing what we're going to do in this course. But you'll see quite a lot. I'll be teaching and working with you on Thursdays and Fridays, especially. So I'll leave the rest to Jonathan, and we'll talk about that shortly a bit more.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Dana. And Dana's going to, at the end of this talk, you're going to be given a little warm-up exercise, which Dana's going to introduce you to, because it's kind of to warm you up for that introduction to photographic practices module that she discussed just then. So those are the academics for photography. You have a visual culture unit or module, which is separate from photography, but it goes alongside it, and that is Dr. Marius Quint. Is he around? Or is he not here yet?
No.
He's going to turn up at some point, in which case I will just let him talk when he comes in. So I'm going to leave that to him to explain what visual culture is and where it fits in with the rest of your studies. So on to the technicians, and we have David Clark. If you come in, David, and
Yeah,
just
come in.
introduce yourself. David's quite... this is quite good. And the rest of them, everyone. Okay, so we have, yes, David. Yeah, Andy and Billy. I mean, this is quite good because David is quite new to us. We had a technician here who was here for 20 years and has left. So we now have David. So in a way, as Roel was saying, we have a new curriculum. We have a new technician. Some of us have not been here too long, and you're all new. So it's quite good in a way because we can all be in this together, and it's not just like you're fitting into something that's sort of chugged on for years, and you're just another year that's the same. So it's quite exciting in that respect. So yeah, David, if you'd just like to introduce yourself a bit.
Yeah, cool. So I'm David. This is Andy, and this is Billy. We're the technicians for the photography course. We'd like to say welcome, although you've already been told welcome probably about 7 times now. It feels wrong to not say it. But yeah, we'll be responsible for inducting you into all of our facilities, showing you how to use all of the equipment, helping you to loan equipment in and out, and pretty much being there for all your sort of ad hoc problems or questions, whether it's to do with using a camera, loading film, editing photo, printing it, things like that. So I'm sure you've been given a tour.
No, we're going to have a tour a bit later on at the end of this session.
Yeah, all of our facilities are sort of down and just around, and we sort of live in there, one small little office. So if you ever need any help, just poke your head into our office. We're always there, and we should be able to try and help you out. I think that's all we really kind of needed to say. We'll get to know you all a lot better over the next 3 years. Hopefully we'll learn all the names nice and quickly. I'm going to struggle with that, but I'll try my best. Don't think I have anything else.
No, so I mean stuff like borrowing stuff from the stores and equipment and all that stuff. Are you going to
Yeah,
deal with that when on Thursday?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
We're seeing you all on Thursday. I think mainly for sort of a health and safety chat. But I think that would be a more appropriate time to talk to you about how we run our loan store. So we can take you through how to loan equipment out online, how to book it out, and sort of all the rules and regulations that come with that. That's kind of all we need to say.
Yeah, that's great.
On
Thanks,
Thursday.
David. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah,
Right,
amazing.
we'll scuttle away.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks.
All right,
Yeah.
nice one.
See you later. Bye.
Yeah, this is good. So you'll get to meet people. I mean, in the years before this, the head technician used to come in and give a rather frightening talk about not bringing your expensive bicycles to the university because they'll be stolen, and how not to drop cameras and things like that. But this will all be dealt with at the appropriate time. It all seemed a bit of an overkill thing to me, so I'm quite glad that's not happening. Although it's good advice not to bring expensive bicycles. Yeah. Or drop cameras. Yeah, although I think we're unsure. But, yeah, okay. So, yeah, any second, Marius Quint will come and talk to you about visual culture, so just hold on for that. So, again, congratulations on getting here. You'll be introduced to a different way of learning, but that's not anything to be worried about. In fact, this is much easier than school. A-levels are terrible. Because school, you have to learn certain things. You have to tick the boxes that you've learned. And there's a certain sort of body of knowledge that you're expected to learn. then, and it's so broad that you have to know so much. And you've got through that, you've done that. From here on in, it's much easier. And that's because you're dealing with what you're interested in. You've already made that decision that you're interested enough in photography to devote 3 years of your life to it here. But there's something important here that when you come straight from school, it is very easy to think in the same way as you thought at school here. So we need, there's this kind of transition that needs to happen, but it needs to happen in you, really. And it is more of a collaboration between us and you. So, you know, we're not staff, we're not pupils in that sense. And it is possible to go through thinking it is like school, in which case you try and do stuff for us and to please us and to sort of get ticks and to get the best marks you can. That's one way of doing it. But I would suggest the best way to do it is to actually just think, what am I actually really, really interested in? You may not know that yet. What am I passionate about? So you need to, we're here to help you find that out and to provide the kind of technical help to allow you to explore that in a professional way. So it's about just accepting that and finding what it is in you that you're passionate about and really going for it, you know, really engage with what's on offer here, and do it for yourself, and then you'll succeed. Do it that way around. But that doesn't come easy. I know that sounds very easy, but it's quite a difficult thing to actually get to, and there's bound to be a kind of transitional period, a whole load of uncertainty about whether you're doing the right thing. I know, you know, when I remember being in your position, I was absolutely terrified of various things, and you know, in many senses, I still am. That doesn't actually go away, but there was a realization that at one point that suddenly, actually, if I just do this thing I'm really interested in, I do it really, really well, and I go to everything, and I do it on my terms for me, not because these bastards want me to do it, then, you know, actually I'll come out of it, not just with a degree, but I'll come out with a degree and a body of work and sort of my own practice that is actually my own. Because the last thing you want to do is come out of here with a whole load of photographs you've made for us that you don't really truly believe in yourself. You know, you may be able to do that and get quite a good mark, but I suggest you don't. I suggest I'd rather you did stuff exactly what you want to do, and we'll just help you to do it, and we'll help you to talk about it in a way that then gets you a good degree. So I've seen Marius has turned up. So as you remember, Marius is our visual culture man. So if you'd like to come and just say a couple of words about visual culture, Marius, and introduce yourself, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay. So my name's Marius Quint. I won't spell it out for you, but it's very nice to see you all here. And as I'm sure you've been told, congratulations for getting here. It's a really super course, and as you're probably aware, quite well reputed. And we have people going on to do all sorts of exciting things from it, as well as staff who are themselves practitioners in exciting and highly regarded ways internationally. So I'm a historian by training, a cultural historian and art historian. I have interests in particular in recent years in the relationship of the sciences, particularly the life sciences, with culture and the visual arts. So, for example, I did an exhibition, I curated an exhibition at Wellcome Collection in London in 2012, quite a few years ago now, but that was about the brain, how it has been represented in what we call scientific visual culture. In other words, kind of medical illustrations, but also what we do to the brain in order to make it legible, to make it understandable, to do things with it to make it understandable, to treat it, to understand how it works. So that was quite a popular show. Also went up to Manchester to the Museum of Science and Industry. And I've also curated one of the most successful aspects or collateral shows of the Venice Biennale in 2015, entitled Frontiers Reimagined, which was really about a group of artists, or a selection of artists, contemporary artists, including photographers such as Edward Batinsky, Sebastião Salgado, who are working at the boundaries of culture. So, you know, where cultures collide, where there is kind of both conflict but also combination and peaceful coexistence and melding of cultures. That was the theme of that exhibition. I say it was successful, that wasn't entirely due to me, it was directed by a gallerist friend, colleague of mine, Sundaram Tagore, who has sort of galleries in Asia and in New York. So that was quite an exciting thing. So that's a bit of how I sort of have been utilising my knowledge and activities and efforts in a kind of public domain and in a practice-related way. And it shows perhaps how if you study history of art and history of culture and society, it does actually impact your practice. As I'm sure you're aware from many of my colleagues here, that what you're also taught to do as practitioners is to write and use words to discuss and describe what you're doing in photography, and also to discuss and describe what others have done, your forebears, those people who've gone before you. So what we offer in the visual culture program, or the spine, it's a spine that all the courses within the School in the Visual Arts have in common, and they're each adjusted a little bit to sort of reflect your own interests, for example, for you in photography. And essentially it's about discussing, writing about, and sort of trying to sort of deepen your practice through inquiry into the broader cultural context. Why is it that photographers make works that look like they do? How come they come out like that? What are the connections? What are the meanings? How have those meanings changed over time? So it's a very broad-ranging activity or element of your course. It's one in which I would ask you to be open-minded, and as I'm sure again all the other aspects of the course would ask you similarly, but to be open-minded and not just to think about, in this one, about photography, but to see how photography intersects with other visual art forms, technology, society, culture more generally, politics, and so on. Okay, so it's really a kind of broadening out that we see here. So you won't be seeing me until the last 3 weeks of this teaching block or term, and then that will be for the first few weeks of a unit or a module, we now call it, called Introduction to Visual Culture, brackets photography. And that consists of seminars, for which we expect you to do a little bit of reading each week, and then we discuss that and look at images and talk about them, okay, with a view to writing a short essay by way of assessment, so you have to do that satisfactorily in order to pass. And also then the following teaching block, you have a series of lectures, which are big lectures in the big lecture theatre downstairs, and you also have seminars which kind of discuss the proceedings of that. So it's a fairly, we kind of worked on this, improved it, we feel, year by year, listened to student feedback, and so we get a combination of, you know, both presented information from us, but also information back from you when we discuss these things. Okay, so that's quite probably enough talking. You're probably very aware of talking heads coming at you, but that's just to give you a bit of the kind of the bearing. So basically, the take-home message is that, you know, visual culture is a broad-ranging thing which takes on board history, society, and other art forms, and people find it quite interesting, and by the end of it, they will write a dissertation or research project. You will in the third year. Any questions for the moment? Well, thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you in several weeks.
Yeah, thanks, Marius. That's great. Thank you. So yes, you're going to be introduced to new work, new ideas, and new concepts. And as Marius said, be open-minded, committed, engage with everything, and experiment. It's not always apparent how you can start making work that becomes interesting or relevant, but it can't happen unless you actually make work. So it's much better to make stuff all the time, go to everything, make as much stuff as possible. That's when things start to happen. If you think about things too much, like how can I make this meaningful? How can I make some work that's really interesting? Then that just kind of makes you think you can't do it. You have to do it, fail at it, experiment, make some shit work, think it's shit, make some good work. You'd be surprised, things come out from this process, sort of this iterative process of just making something and then making it again. And we'll facilitate that, we'll help you with that through discussion. But if you don't turn up to those discussions, then it won't happen. So you have to make work, you have to turn up to things, and then it will all come together. It'll be absolutely fine. And the other thing is, sticking with that point for the moment, that's quite a cool thing, really. I mean, this is the dreams James alluded to. School is very sort of restrictive. When you go out and be employed, that's quite restrictive too. You may have developed a practice, but then it's really unlikely that your employer is going to ask you to sort of experiment and do what you want. Here you can do what you want and learn how that is relevant, how that's useful. So you can come out of here and hopefully end up getting a job, even if it isn't initially, hopefully getting a job that actually reflects your interests and you can do what you want. That's what the point of this is. But these 3 years are yours to do that, and that's amazing. We're here simply to encourage you in your wild, sort of passions in photography. And if you haven't got those yet, we'll help you find them. So, don't throw that away, because once it's gone, it's very difficult to get it back. So make the most of it. It will take time, so don't put pressure on yourself either, because there's also, it's very easy to feel like, oh God, I haven't found my passion. Shit, what am I going to do? But don't, just let it happen. But that will happen through you making things and through coming to things and through turning up and engaging. And that's it. And that's all you have to do. And then everything else will come together. If you have any worries, concerns, or questions of any kind, please ask. Just always communicate. Always tell us if you've got something that's an issue. I mean, has anyone got any questions at the moment, just on everything that's been said so far? Is everyone okay? We'll probably have a break at some point, because this will go on for a couple of hours. So, but not just yet. So this is it's quite hard to get to grips with what this is, but this is what your year looks like. Each one of these are the modules you're going to be doing. And they, apart from the visual culture, which, as Mary said, starts a little while later, they all start next week. And they all run right through to the end of the year. So you can see TB1, Teaching Block 1, goes to Teaching Block 2. Teaching Block 2 is after Christmas. Teaching Block 1 starts now. So September to December, it's 12-week teaching blocks. These grey things are weeks, they're called consolidation weeks, which they're just that. The teaching actually stops, but it gives you a bit of a chance, and us a bit of a chance to sort of gather ourselves and then move on. It's tempting to say they're weeks off, but they're not. They're kind of weeks where there's no teaching. So everything tends to be then split into 6 week breaks, or like chunks of teaching. So hopefully you can see that as a kind of a year thing, and where the breaks come. The assessment period is like Christmas, just after Christmas break, and then you've got Easter break here. But then if you look at it as the modules, so you've got Introduction to Photographic Practicing and Research, which is what Diana said, she's going to introduce that to you this week. At the end of this session, we're going to have a warm-up exercise that relates to that. That is where you're going to start making things, your own work, start to develop your own practice, and we're going to talk about how you can utilise research in the development of that practice, and what that means. And creative and industry skills is what James was talking about, so you're going to be doing that with James and Richard. And professional practice and work experience, that's with Leslie. Yeah. And Introduction to Visual Culture with Marius. So it's I think it's pointless me giving you any more kind of details on that. You can see the various weightings of these. These are 40 credit units for the two of them, and 2 are 20 credit units there. But that just gives you a kind of general overview. These things are on online. I'll tell you how to access those in a minute. This is a kind of general look at what your week will look like in relation to those modules we've just looked at. So it's not always completely accurate, and you have very, very specific and individual timetables which you can access. Has anyone actually accessed their timetable already? Okay, so we'll work on that. Some people have, some people haven't. That's important that you get to know how to do that. So this is just a general overview of what generally happens. So generally you are going to have creative and industry skills on a Monday and a Tuesday. Wednesday will be professional practice and work experience. Wednesday afternoon is blank because no teaching happens on Wednesday afternoons. Not sure why that is, but there's going to be when some sporting activities and things go on. Is that what that was? Yeah. Thursdays is and Fridays are both dedicated to introduction to photographic practices and research, which Dana and I will be working with you on. And notice this says check Moodle. We're going to talk about what Moodle is and how to check it, because that's the way that you actually know what's going on in general. Because there's so many of you, you can't all be taught at once. You get split into groups. But it's important for you to know that the different modules, the groups will be different. They're not consistent through the module. So if you're in group 1 for one module and you're in group, you may be in group 2 for another. They're very specific to the module, so it's just important that you know that. And what that means is it's very important for you to check your individual timetable rather than just asking one of your friends, is it visual goal? No, is it photographic practices today or not? Because it might be for you, but it might not be for them. And it's done that way so that to make sure you work with different people, so you're not just grouped together with the same sort of 10 people all the time. Just go through the course like that. So this is more just something that you can refer back to, but it's who and how to contact people. Every module has somebody who coordinates that module. So I'm a year coordinator with Leslie for you guys, but as we've seen, the different lecturers deal with different modules, and each one of those is specific to that module. So if you have a question about a specific module, you can find out who the coordinator is and email them. That's me. This is mainly so that you can revisit this as a PDF online, and just if you can't think how to get hold of us, then this is here. Course leader rule. School office. I didn't really mention Flo when I had the staff stuff up. Flo Bellett is our course administrator, and she is lovely in all senses of the word. She's very friendly, very approachable, but she's who you approach if you have any questions about the way the course runs, basically, outside of the individual modules, units, anything to do with sort of, anything else, really. If you have any problems with anything, any of us will point you to the right person, if you know what I mean. But Flo, I was hoping she'd be here to talk, but it's probably because I didn't invite her that she didn't know. Okay, so you, student support advisor, Mark Whitten, he will come and give you a talk on Thursday to talk about his role as support advisor and what that means and how to get in contact with him. There's the principal technician, David, and that's his email address goes to the loan store in general. That's the photo workshops at port.ac.uk, which means that any query you have in regards to technicians or loaning equipment, that all the technicians see it, so it doesn't get held up. We also have what we call drop-in surgeries. Each member of staff, the academic staff, have a morning allocated to them where we are available for 30 minutes, generally between 9 and 9:30, something like that. So if you have something you want to talk to someone about, you can find out who's available on that day and just drop in and have a chat with them. Again, I will tell you how to do that in a minute. More and more of this becomes about Moodle, which I'm hopefully going to get onto with some slides in a second. If you do email us, we aim to guarantee that we will respond within 5 days. You do have to, the reason for that a lot of the time is because some of these members of staff are part-time, and you may email them just on days they're not in, plus the weekend or whatever. Sometimes it can take a bit of time, but it's generally much, much quicker than that if you email us. What we can't do is give feedback via email. You know, that's too much work to sort of email feedback, but the course is structured so that you have those discussions face to face, which is much better anyway. But if you have any other kind of worries, questions, you know, just email. So I'm wondering, maybe you should have a break now, because what I'm going to tell you now is how to access Moodle, how to get online. And I think maybe if you have a sort of 10-minute break, it just means you come back and sort of gives you a chance to clear all the rubbish you've just been given. And then we can go straight into that.
Do you all know your way back in? Just a question.
We're going to have to go.
Yeah, you're confident on that? Yeah. Okay, good.
In the station.
Yeah, I mean, you can just stay there. There's no worries. You know, or you can just wander about.
11.
You get back to 11:05. Make sure you come back.
Make sure you come back on the names.
Yes.
No.
Oh, because it's got that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Brilliant. That's all good. Thanks, Ben.
You are? Lovely. Lovely. Oh shit. It's like, I'm like people, right? And they're like, yo! And I'm like, what? And I'm like, it's me! And I'm like, okay.
I've had that, my accommodation group chat. Someone goes, "How looks Lottie?" I'm like, "Who are you?" And then that's the other name, like, "Ah, from the group chat." How am I meant to know what they look like?
Yeah.
I don't know how they know who I look like. Just look at my story.
Who's going to the party? Tuesday.
I've got tickets for Tuesday. I don't know what to go to. Something else in my cat's got to do, so I might go to
So, give me your life story. I know these lot, I don't know you. Calm down. Well, not life story. Like, you know, how old are you? Where are you?
I'm 18 from Bournemouth, but I was meant to be doing my second year of college this year, but I did that college from university. And I live down the road. Photography. Well, I did my first year of media, dropped that to do photography. I did the first year of photography, and then I was like, you know, I'm at college, I've got enough to go to uni. So around the road, yeah, go to uni. College
That was like it.
like 2 years of college and university.
You've done 3.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was meant to do, well, I was meant to do 2, but because I swapped courses, I was meant to do an extra year. And then
applied for university Thursday.
I applied for university
As in
Thursday.
today is Monday.
Yes.
As in Saturday, Friday.
As in, I applied 4 days before university started. Okay, yeah,
I
fine.
literally had a day packed and
I did illustrative animation.
my final report, so I went with them. I started
Yeah.
Imagine like living in Aberdeen.
luckily I'm also from Bournemouth, so it's sort of
Like,
like
they just, can you do the roads off there? Like, telephone road round.
You will realise.
Okay.
So like when he was when he came out here, I'm out because I was from shit. I don't care.
Yeah, so the next meeting will be like 1 minute away from it. Are you going to stay there?
Well, if it was me, I'd say no, but it's not me, it's better.
Yeah.
So where are you, like, where staying, like, what,
I'm not in my office is down the road, literally.
Okay, yeah.
2 minutes. I did. So I'm ready with family.
So
So it's good that the double not in Eagles as well, because I wouldn't have anywhere to
No.
go if I was in Eagles.
it's like all the conventional ones.
Yeah, I don't have like anything in the home.
Did you?
Right, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Where are you going to?
across the road.
Yeah.
So when I walked in 2 minutes late, she was, well, whoever sat with it, where's Amy gone? Oh, right. So when she was sat there and she saw me walking, she was like, you were.
You're the Unite one.
Yeah, what is it?
I'm in gospel.
It's a
I got my mate, my best friend is moving to Gosport. He's like, mate, you got to come live with me. And I'm like, I'm not living in Gosport, and I can live 2 minutes down the road.
Exactly. And when I
So,
get to that 5-day time, when I was
yeah,
like 5
I
days,
can't look at my timetable yet.
I was like,
You have to get a ferry.
I was getting married.
Today,
You have to
my
get to
time
ferry.
free.
I was getting the ferry, yeah.
Are you a
France.
student? How is it?
No,
Where do you live?
gospel is. It's not far.
How do you get to the ferry?
I get the bus and get the ferry and walk.
It just sounds really odd, doesn't it?
Actually,
Ferry.
Sorry.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like a 20-minute ferry from the Isle of Wight, so it's really easy. It just sounds odd to me.
But I'm so
Yeah,
glad I
Well, you live in the middle of
I live in
like
like, would you have to pay it all?
It's so weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
370 for a return. Yeah, if I can get like a group.
Okay, so you're telling me
So what
that
is
you
that?
pay £3.70, get a wacky fucking ferry, across the fucking sea, all the way to the Isle of Wight, there and
No,
back.
the
No,
Isle
I'm
of
white,
Wight's
gospel.
£18.
I was
Isle of Wight is
Isle of Wight's like
expensive.
20 quid. Yeah.
So,
What am I going to fucking say?
He's in Gosport because that
Oh,
that fucking that way.
look, good work.
That way. Don't walk way.
Student discount though, £18.
Oh, that's £2 off.
What, one trip? Return. But that's a day, that's a day return.
I can get 5 returns for
How do
less
you
than
afford
She needs moral support.
Yeah, but it's a lot further.
You, I don't like that.
No, my ex is on the other one, so I'm just not
You should hold us.
Me?
Yeah.
No, because I was in halls last year, but I've changed courses, so I'm in now.
Private company.
Yeah, living with all my second year friends in Wales, second year. Are you lot all halls then?
Yeah,
I'm not.
I live 2 minutes down the road. Literally, you can see my house from the studio.
That's so good.
It was my uncle's house, but I'm like renting with him.
Yeah.
I was like, fuck you, Eagles. I'm not paying for uni.
Yeah, I mean, it's really convenient.
If it's like,
What about what about which
The other side of the thing, so.
is that all that's changed?
yeah.
I
So
don't
where
know.
is it?
It was James Watson.
And then
now
it's like Roosevelt.
Basically, they were like,
Rosalind.
James Watson, the guy was like done for like being racist or something, so they were like, we can't have a hall named after him. And then apparently he wasn't the person who figured out DNA. It's all a bit, yeah,
Well,
last
Mason
year it
then.
was all a bit weird.
Most of mine are in Canada. I'm giving up all of them.
I think
Quinn's nice.
My friend said that she was sick of people slamming doors, but I was like, that's what you expect.
Yeah, I mean, especially during practice.
I know how much my mate works.
That's the good thing about it.
And he sent me video of that, so I was like,
Going in at like £200 a week. Literally,
Oh,
and then
that's
and
what
food on top of that, that's like 270 quid a week. And I was like,
Literally, I got in at like
currently buying
I was like, oh wow.
I saw you might for now.
A lot of people cycle. Well, they just said that the bike's getting it.
oh yeah,
I watched out.
no, it's bikes get nicked in Portsmouth.
Bikes
Like, all the time. So don't leave your bike
Oh,
somewhere
you're
that's not
literally
locked up. But they will literally take like your wheel or
Yeah,
you'll
if you-
see bikes around which are
with like
missing
missing tip bits.
or you'll just see the frame with nothing on it. It's like a proper
So don't
common
leave
thing.
your bike for too long in that area.
Yeah,
either.
don't leave it like that.
Then they're like,
I don't have one.
but yeah,
I
no,
don't even, I've got a skateboard, it's like you carry that everywhere.
That's why all this amazing.
Oh my god.
That would be a bit.
That like Marie, was it? She's
About helmet and
Are you guys going for the
just
flashes?
go straight down.
can't hold it.
I didn't get around because I was
See, I wouldn't take those. Basically,
No,
I would
no,
cost me
no.
50 quid. I just like locked it down. The main road's like this. So I would take my flatmate trying to get
Are you guys
around.
going to prison paint park?
Yeah,
Thursday. I really want to go back there. I want to go to it.
my flatmate's coming from the bus. But I'm not sure I don't.
I really want to go. And
It's
like,
only a fiver.
yeah, I'm gonna go to it, but I'm like, shit, I've got no clothes. But
Yeah,
anyway,
the thing is,
my clothes,
I
I
packed
packed
all
4
my
weeks worth of clothes because I'm going over next weekend. And I had a day to pack, and I was
on
like,
like Sunday.
that's right,
And
that's
then
just
we
really
took 2 hours
I don't think Thursday, literally applying.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go to Primark and buy some shit. So that I get paid. And then I'll be like, right, I'm done.
And
Let's
then
go.
I was like, do you go away from
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what you but then like you see this one on Sunday, it's like Friday was 1 hour. Like on Thursday we have 11 till 2, so that's a long enough. Kind of like your time. Yeah, I've got
I'm trying to get my mate to come up and do it.
you see it.
I was like, wait, come up.
I just went for moral support. Did you get off? Yeah, I fell off.
Oh, yeah, you're necessary. Later. Yeah. No, minute and a half. Oh no, I've got the word unit. I knew that the word unit movements.
I was like, what the hell, mate?
Was that this weekend? I'm not allowed to.
Okay. The most important thing for you guys is to be able to access the information you need as to where to go. And what's happening, what's coming up, what's, what you need to do so you can prepare and that you don't miss anything. That's particularly important at the beginning. It's always important, but what I guess the most important thing, what this is now about, is how do you access that stuff? Now, some people have already managed to do this, but don't worry if you haven't. But do actually make it happen now. And if you can't access anything, let me know. Because we need to sort that out. That would be a disaster if you're not sure what you're doing. So can I just have a show of hands of who has actually managed to view their online timetable? Okay. And has anybody tried to view their online timetable and not managed to do it? Okay, so that's good. So it means that people have tried and done it. Have you got a problem? Is there not a research thing, that you can ask?
Mine did that. Mine did that, and then I left it for a day and it let me log in.
Keep trying. Did you come up with the password? Okay, so you've got it right. Then just try it again. So this is where you get essential information. These things. MyPort is your place where everything can be accessed from, and it's very easy to get to. So if you just actually Google MyPort like that, it's that one at the top, or yeah, this one. So that's what MyPort looks like, and I can't actually get onto this because I'm not a student, but if you click on any of these things, you're invited to sign in. So you all have a number and a password. I don't know, like a username and a password. So it should be easy enough for you to get to here. Just save this, bookmark it or whatever. And that's the important bit here. My timetable will give you your very own specific timetable. So try to access that as quickly as you can, even now during this session, so that you have got it. You also have Moodle, which I keep talking about there. But again, each of these things, if you go to it, actually, because I've already signed in, that's fine. Initially, it'll invite you to sign in as yourself, and then it'll give you your version of Moodle. Moodle is like an online environment, learning kind of environment, and it's our way of communicating with you what your modules are about, what's required in them, how you're being assessed, all this stuff. So the timetable is just where you need to go, when you need to go there. Moodle will tell you specifically about the things you're learning. So there's a list of things. My list is huge. Yours should only be, each one of these is a module. Your one should be just the modules that are relevant to you. So and plus there is this one here, which is a course Moodle page. So if I go onto that, so you'll have a course Moodle page, you probably have a visual culture Moodle page, you'll have one for Introduction to Photographic Practices and Research, which is there. No, it isn't. Why isn't it there? What is your unit called?
Well, you have less than one there. Mine is Introduction to Photographic Practices and Research.
Maybe I don't have access to that, but you will. Huh?
Yes. So you'll only have the ones that you are registered on.
Yeah. So if we just look,
it won't look like a gigantic list like that.
So yeah, so it should be fairly easy for you to navigate. It just takes a little bit of getting used to, but don't worry about that. Just try and familiarise yourself with it. The main thing is to get on it first, see what your list is, just visit each module, but don't read too much yet because you'll freak out about stuff that's written. The BA photography one's relatively friendly, so you've got level 4, which has the kind of weak general breakdown there that I've just shown you. And here is this induction lecture that I'm giving now, saved as a PDF, and I've put a handy little thing just so that you know it's there. You've also got links to my port. Everything links back to itself. So you've got a university map, sort of various helpful stuff. Personal tutorials I'll get into in a minute, but they'll be posted on here. And then you go to level 5, so you don't need to worry about this. Yours is just the top bit, level 4, because you're on level 4. Year 1 is level 4, okay? So yeah, you can press one of these buttons if you want. Surgery hours, that should give us, okay, surgery hours, doesn't it? That's not populated yet, but hopefully we'll be able to fill in that information there of who's available on what morning for you to drop in if you need to. Various details down here, so everyone's email address. So, that's not right, so let's go back. So that's the course Moodle page, and if we just go on to a module page, you'll get a welcome, and it'll tell you stuff you need to do. All looks very scary, but it's all going to be, and that you get like a calendar for each module. Basically, you don't need to worry about these things. You just need to know they're there and always be able to refer to them. There's also a way for us as staff to put out announcements on our modules. So say you're learning with me and Dana and we want you to bring something specific to the next session, we would do that via Moodle. We put out an announcement, and you would get that announcement in your email and by looking at the announcement on the Moodle page. So you've covered both ways. So always check Moodle, but always check your emails too. And the other thing is your email is a kind of number on that apport.ac.uk. You can change it, but please don't. Because I think sometimes that causes problems with the way that Moodle interfaces with your emails, and sometimes we can put notifications up there to alert you of something, and then for some reason it doesn't email you. So just leave it as you can, would be helpful. And then, but the main thing is always check your emails and get used to finding this. And if for some reason you can't access that, all your emails, please let me know. So going back to the My Port page, you have your emails there. Various other things. There's, you can search for stuff here as well, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But that's the important thing, those things at the top. Your timetable and your access to Moodle is the important thing for you to know today if there's a problem with, and to get used to navigating. But don't, as I say, read too much of the information on each module because it'll make you scared. That will be introduced to you rather gently as the modules start, okay? Because it's a bit like reading a sort of DVD player manual or something. You don't want to do that. It's best just to experience it. Okay, does that make sense? Good. Okay. In terms of communication, communicating to us and between yourselves, just a quick word on social media. Try to avoid that as, not in general, but try to avoid it as a means of knowing what you have to do. Don't rely on, your Facebook friends or whatever, or via Facebook to tell you where you're going, what to do. Always check with your timetable and Moodle, and that's partly because of the group thing. that I was just saying. But also it's just good practice, and then you know you're getting it right. It's not just because you read on Facebook something was supposed to be happening. If it's something supposed to be happening, it will be in your timetable, or it will be announced on Moodle. So always check those things first. Or if you see something on Facebook that you think, then check it. And if in doubt, check with us. This is really a list of support services should you need them. I'm not going to go through that. You can see what they are. But the main thing is this slide is available for you on that Moodle page for you to access. It will also be in MyPort. If you search for any of these things, these email addresses and contact details will come up for you and a relevant page. One thing I think is worth mentioning is the academic support services. The top two on the right, academic skills and creative skills, they are located in a room downstairs, and there's members of staff down there that are available for you just to drop in and get help with academic stuff, like essay writing or referencing, all this kind of stuff that's needed at university. And creative skills similarly will help you with any kind of software issues you have. If you need to know how to use Lightroom in a specific way, or make edit a movie clip or whatever, they are always there for you to help you out. And I'll show you where that is on the tour, because that's a really useful kind of resource for us to have. And also, the guy I said, the welfare officer, the welfare officer, he's located down there as well. So he's going to come to talk to you on Thursday, but I'll show you where he lives, as it were. Okay, so I'm not going to go through that, but you can find it online, hopefully. This was the point at which I think last year we had a talk on health and safety from the technician, but as David said, he's going to talk to you about that on Thursday. We'll talk a bit more about that, what's happening on Thursday, so don't worry if you haven't missed that. I'm going to tell you very specifically where you need to go. It will also be on your timetable once you've accessed it. Information hubs are dotted around the university, and this is quite a new thing for us. In fact, it's just happening this year, and it means that rather than having to go to a specific hub for specific things, although you still need to do that, you can probably get most information from any hub, from any building. And I will show you where the hub is here in this building as we go on the tour. But that was as a result of kind of student feedback that students were often asked to go to a different building to get a specific query resolved, whereas now that's being kind of centralised, but also all hubs are the same. Although, having said that, there will still be very specific things you need to do in this hub, and that will be to do with maybe handing in certain bits of work, because you don't want to hand in. We don't want to have to go around all sorts of different buildings collecting the work. But in general, it's a helpful thing to use so that when you've got queries, you can ask at any hub. And those are the buildings where they are. Our hub doesn't look like that yet. It's more like a window. But I think it's going to be like that. I think the dream is it's going to end up looking like a kind of bank or a post office. If that's a dream, that's a strange dream, isn't it? So anyway, that's just for your information that those things exist, and I'll show you where that is. Also, just a quick word, and this will be reiterated as you start all your teaching and stuff. Your uni cards, have you all got a uni card? Yeah. Outside each teaching room is one of those black boxes. Yeah. You just need to hold your card against that as you access the room for any of your timetabled sessions. So it knows you're there. And that's okay. It just monitors your attendance. So get used to doing that. And if you lose your card for some reason, it becomes quite important that you get it replaced quickly. So attendance is essential, and this is kind of what I've said. You know, I won't bang on about it, but it is, you know, it's very easy with this kind of transition to a new way of learning and being away from home, this new environment. You know, if you get off to a sort of shaky start and you're not feeling great and you don't turn up to a couple of things, it becomes worse because you then haven't shown up to some things, so you're then embarrassed to show up to the next thing because you haven't shown up to the last thing. So please try and come to everything. If you are feeling anxious or you're feeling like you can't for some reason, please communicate with us and we'll try and work it out with you. You know, that's all I can really say about that. But we're here to kind of support you, but we can only support you if you will talk with us. And we're happy to talk with you. We do know, you know, that not everyone experiences everything in the same way, so we're quite sympathetic. But you know, if you can attend, please do, and it is essential for your you know, progression through the course and your enjoyment. We do appreciate that you do have to probably earn some money as well, but please try and make it so that the course takes priority, because you know, you're paying a lot for this, and this is the thing that counts. Whereas I suspect whatever job you have will be a temporary thing, and even though it will seem like the most immediate thing because you need money right there and then, try and organise it so that doesn't conflict with your studies, which makes sense, yeah. Just a quick thing, which this is quite interesting, even though it doesn't look it. Basically, this is just to sort of underline that point. So you have attendance at the bottom. So this would be a dot as a person. If you had a dot there, it would be someone who never attended anything. And if you came to everything, you'd be on this one. But it just, this is like attainment of grade in percent. So what I just want to point out there is that if you attend 75% or more, no one in this year who attended in this group, which was a whole year group, who attended 75% at least, none of them got a mark lower than 55. But the other thing, you know, people who did attended less than 50% of the time, less than half of the time, most of those are down here in the 40s. So in a way, you know, if you come to 3/4 of the stuff that you're supposed to, you're, based on this graph, you're guaranteed of a mark there or higher just by turning up. And that's kind of underlines what I was talking about. If you can engage, you will succeed. If you don't show up to things, it's difficult to succeed because you don't get involved in the discussions that are necessary to move stuff forward. And if you don't come enough, you know, you won't attain a good grade. You know, so it's just a simple correlation that you just need to be aware of. But it also means it's quite easy, you know, to achieve that just by turning up. In a more kind of positive light, in terms of social media, if you follow Richard on Instagram, he will appreciate it because his followers will grow by 45 or whatever. Also, he is also following and links to a lot of really useful people on Instagram, which you would benefit from having access to. So follow him and you'll achieve that instantly. Look at what he's looking at. This is because he's using it professionally, not, you know, pictures of his kids or whatever. So it's not conflict of interest there. Similarly, the University of Portsmouth has its own Instagram feed, which we try to update occasionally. So visit that too, and you know, follow us. But don't try and become friends with us on Facebook or whatever, because we're not going to accept it. But it just, there is a conflict of interest there. Maybe when you graduate, we can just be buddies or whatever. But not now. Yeah. Right. And there's nothing personal. It's just don't. It just doesn't work, and can lead to sort of horrendous complications. But hopefully that makes sense. This is something that you need to know about, or you might like to know about, you may not. There's something called the Institution-Wide Language Programme. If you would like to learn a language while you're here, alongside your studies, which can then transition in next year as an optional unit in that language, you kind of need to sign up for that quite quickly. By Thursday the 19th. Is anyone interested in doing that? Yeah? So the way to do that is to follow this link, or probably easier is just go on that MyPort page and just search for Institution-Wide Language Programme, just search for language, and you'll find this link there. So there's various ways, but if you have trouble accessing it, let me know. This is one thing you can't just Google, because for some reason I've tried that and it doesn't work. It just brings up stuff from 2012. But if you go to MyPort, find the page, that will tell you how to sign up. Yeah, and ideally, there is options to sign up later before Christmas, but I think it's best for you to do it as soon as possible to guarantee your place on that. So, as I say, any problem with that, let me know. These are the languages on offer. So consider that, but consider it reasonably quickly. Go onto MyPort, find the right page, follow that link, read about it. May not be for you, but it may be. It's just another thing that's available for you if you want it. And I don't think there's any pressure. You can do it if you don't. I think it tries to figure out. You have to say whether you're a complete newbie or whether you know how to speak a bit. And if you know how to speak a bit of one of these languages, they invite you to a session to see what level you're at, so they make sure they put you in the right group. But yeah. So personal development tutorials. These are things which will happen quite soon. Once you've settled in, you'll know whether you have any worries, queries, whatever. These are sessions that are just to do with you, not to do with your work, your modules, or any of that stuff. It's just to see how you're doing. Do you need any support that you haven't asked for? And you'll be invited to one of these, just a one-to-one session. So you will know this via Moodle. It'll be on the course site that I showed you, but you'll receive emails about it too, and it's coming up. It'll be in the next few weeks, but we haven't organised it yet because we need to know exactly who's here and how to manage that. And those will almost inevitably be on Wednesday afternoons when there isn't teaching. Those happen every year. You'll get one of those just to check on how you're doing. But that doesn't mean you can't come outside of those sessions and say that you have something that you're worried about. You don't have to wait for that to happen, but it's just a way for us to make sure we've talked to everyone individually and that you're all right. Student rep elections. We need to elect 2 student reps from the year, and this is your way as a year group to be able to communicate directly with the institution. So via staff student meetings, so the reps will be able to gather information or concerns from you guys, and then go to these meetings and convey those with staff. And then because that's happened, then those things will automatically go to the Board of Studies and will make or can make real changes to things. Hold on. Will, can I just ask you something? The student rep process and elections for student rep, when does that happen? Do I need to, or when is it ideally kind of a thing that
We
don't
tend
need
to,
decide.
because you don't know each other yet, we tend to use the first lecture of introduction to professional practice and work experience, which will be next week, Wednesday.
Yeah.
That's what we tend to use to have a discussion
Okay, right.
about who's going to be student rep, because it would be a bit weird today to ask who's going to be student rep.
So just bear that in
So-
mind. If you consider yourself as that's something you want to do, thanks, Troy. Then consider that over the next week. You know, maybe discuss it with your, amongst yourselves, and we'll work that out. Okay, it'd be good if someone puts themselves forward. A couple of people would be great. It's actually quite a really good way of getting to know what's going on very quickly, but it's not for everyone. I mean, I know I'd have hated that absolutely. So no one's going to be forced to be a student rep, so don't worry. Okay, welcome packs. These are these things, which you each get one of. I won't pass them out because that would just be really awkward. But when we go on the tour, you can sort of grab one. But this is what's got in it. You've got a plastic wallet, which actually is really handy for handing work in, for carrying stuff about, and also an A4 print box, which will come in very useful, particularly for your first practice research unit to hand in your work. It saves you buying one of those things. That's, you've got something to present your work in right from the outset. There's a USB stick, which might come in handy, and a catalogue from last year, which you might already have, but hopefully not. I mean, that only came out in July, so it's the work that's been just shown as part of the grant that's just graduated. Did anyone go to the Free Range show in London to see the show, or come here to see the work? No? Okay, well, you've got something to you can check that out. So this then is just an overview of this week for you. So this is today, and this is the course welcome and induction project launch. That's what's happening right now. At 1:30 you have an all-school welcome meeting, which is in Eldon West 1.11, which I will tell you where that is. I'll show you where that is. In general, with all the room numbers, the letters refer to the building at the beginning. So EL 2.26 is this room. EL stands for Eldon. Eldon West is different because they built it on after they built the rest of the building. So it's quite a complicated building, which is why you have to go down and up stairs all over the place because they keep building it bit and joining it on not very well. And the first bit before the decimal point refers to the floor, which is, so this is floor 2, and then so that gives you a kind of clue. If you don't know where the hell the thing is, you can at least know what the initials of the building is and what floor it's on, and it might help you to find it. So you've got an all-school welcome meeting at 1:30, which means I don't want to drag this on too long. Tomorrow, ID check and registration. Has anyone done that already? Some people have, some people haven't, because it says only if you. So if you've done it, don't worry, you've done it. If you haven't done it, it's in the Spinnaker building, which we will show you on the tour where that is. But do make sure you bring your passport and driving license with you to register. So that's tomorrow morning at 10. You then got a student union talk in the afternoon. And then there's a faculty induction social event, which is here in the courtyard tomorrow early evening. Wednesday, I don't probably have any slides. Once I've got to the end of this, if you want to photograph this with your phones, you've got that immediately. So there's a student union freshers fair, which is optional, which is in the park by the student union building. That's on Wednesday, all day. And at 12 till 2, there's an introduction for EU or international students, and that's in Eldon West 1.08. I'll show you where that is later as well. So if that's relevant to you, make note of when we show you where that room is. And then Thursday, which is kind of the most important, apart from the ID check thing, you have again a students' freshers fair all day in the same place by the Students' Union building, which I'll show you where that is. Then at 12 p.m. you have the first health and safety induction from David in the photography studios. And on your timetable, this is timetabled for all of you because we haven't got groups yet. So it's timetabled for all of you from between 12 and 1. But in fact, we need you to come half of you at once between 12 and 12:30, and the other half 12:30 to 1. So if it's okay with you guys, can I just say that this is group 1 for the moment for that, just for that specific event. But it requires that you actually either write that down or remember it. But you're group 1. So if you could turn up, it's more or less. I think it's slightly less than this round, but that's okay. If you could turn up at 12:30 on Thursday, I'm sorry, turn up at 12. Turn up at 12 on Thursday, and you guys, group 2, turn up at 12:30. Okay, that's the one thing you need to remember from this. And if you forget, ask me. But I won't remember what group you're in, so you need to remember that. And then that afternoon, at 2 p.m, you have your first module launch, which is slightly earlier than all the other modules, and that's the one that Dana and I are working with you on, Introduction to Photographic Practices and Research. So, yeah, make sure you come to those things. I'll reiterate that in a minute. Other things, there's a course trip to London on Wednesday the 23rd of October, but you don't need to really worry about this. There will be an online form which will be sent out later this week. It is first come, first served because it's limited by the sort of coach seats. I'm not entirely 100% sure that £15 figure is actually accurate yet. Hopefully it is, or hopefully it's less. I hope it's not more. But anyway, don't hold me to that that figure. But just keep your eyes out for that. I'm sorry about the picture. Hopefully there aren't riots. That's the poll tax riot, which was in the. When were the poll tax riots? 80s? Yeah, maybe 90s. Yeah. Does anyone know what the poll tax was? That was it was terrible. You know what council tax is? Yeah, that was a government decision. I think it was a sorry?
86.
Yeah, something like that. 86, yeah, they suddenly made every individual responsible to pay tax, not based on people who have houses or not. So you had people who had no source of income, they billed to pay taxes. And it ended up with a big load of riots. So when you're in London, check out, we're not sure what we're going to yet. We have to figure out what's on. But here's just a sort of an array of various galleries that might be interesting to you. So check out this slide. Visit some of these galleries' websites, see what's on. And it's good practice to follow them if they've got, Instagram feeds or whatever. There is a gallery, a rather nice gallery in Portsmouth itself. Has anyone been down to Gunwall Keys yet? Okay, so that's down there. So go and check that out. I think I'm nearly there. So it's going to be your handing over to your. Yeah. So what's going to happen now is we're going to, before we go on our tour, before we pick up your welcome pack, Dana is just going to give you a little exercise to start you off for the Thursday. So when you've done that, there's a couple more slides I need to do.
Okay.
But I think it should be just your. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So this warm-up exercise is our starting point for the module, which I'll introduce in a lot more details this Thursday at 2 o'clock here in this room. But to get us started and to sort of form an introduction to the city of Portsmouth, and also for you to get to know each other, we set up a little warm-up exercise, which I really hope will be enjoyable, and it's really all about you exploring, engaging with one another, and just looking around. Okay, so I'll just go through But I'll go through the slides. I want to read this together with you to make sure that everything is clear and also allow you to ask questions. But you will receive these pages to take with you, so don't worry about getting all the information. Oops. Yeah, okay. So, I'll just read that, let's read that together, and if there are any questions, please let me know. So, the first thing for this exercise, you're required to form groups of 4 students per group. So, you might not know each other at this point, and we really want to get together, walk together, and explore together. You have already a timetable for this week, which was given to you, sent to you, and also discussed with Jonathan. But try to use that in between time to walk around town and see places that are of interest to you, but mainly just explore. Okay, just sort of go to areas that you haven't been to before. Some of you might be new to Portsmouth, so this is a really nice opportunity to get to know the city. So, using the city of Portsmouth as your working environment, you are required to make photographs as a response to a list of titles. I will read those out later, and you can take that with you. Each student should select 10 titles only and produce 10 photographs, 1 for each chosen title. Okay, so there's a selection here. See what you want to respond to. So these titles have been chosen to make it difficult to produce a literal, descriptive, or obvious transcription into the photographic. There is therefore no correct way to achieve your outcome. So it's really just about exploring and experimenting and just making propositions of what this interpretation might be into a photograph. Your images and the thought process and discussions that have gone into their production will form the first pages of your research and development book for the module Introduction to Photographic Practices and Research. This module, like I said, will launch on Thursday and will also be discussed as your first tutorial. So the research and development book, which we call RDB, I will show you many examples of what that is, and we'll dedicate a whole lecture to discuss what that is, what is expected of you. But just to start off, this is a sketchbook that will follow and progress with your development and research. Okay, so just for now, hold that thought. For this exercise, you may use whatever device you choose to make your photographs. We're aware that maybe some of you have already have some experience with different cameras. Some of you may have a camera, but you're not obligated to use those. You can even use your own phone. So it's really not about that. You will be inducted into the cameras that we have here, and you're not currently expected to do that. But just a quick response. Like I said, if you have a camera, great. But if not, then a phone or a tablet or whatever is fine as well. Okay. This is designed as a quick exercise to be completed by the launch of module on Thursday, 19th of September. So this Thursday, right? So it doesn't leave you a lot of time, which is therefore you're not expected to conduct thorough research here. You're just expected to have fun, explore, discuss amongst yourself, and just see what you respond to from the city. Okay. The time frame requires you to shoot the first solution that presents itself. The idea is to generate discussion within the groups whilst on location in the city and whilst making the images. Okay, so talk together, think about these. Don't think too much, just respond very quickly. Collect some impressions and just try to enjoy this. So the starting points, which we should do now, you will do amongst yourselves. I'm not going to divide you into groups of 4. Okay, so it can be just people who you are sat next to, or you can do it yourself however you'd like. Go out and explore the city. Discuss possible approaches with your group members, but again, respond quickly to what you see and what you encounter. Create 10 photographs in response to 10 titles from the list. So each one of you is expected to produce 10 images in response to each title, okay? Be spontaneous and adventurous in your approach and in general. And like I said, try and have fun with this activity. This is really just a starting point to see how we engage with the city and what we come up with. And these results will be later on discussed in more details, but it will just be a starting point. So,
Can I just clarify that? That's one photograph per word, not 10, because it almost you could have read that as 10
oh, sorry. Yeah.
images for each of the 10 titles, but it's just one image.
Yes.
for each.
But 10
So you
each.
will
per
each
student.
produce 10 images
Yeah.
total.
Is that clear? Yeah? Yeah. Okay, great. So, as a little exercise as well, some of you have checked their email and calendar, so this is also just to double check that. Please email me those photographs. This will be also an indication that you've worked out how to use your email, you've accessed it. If you do have a problem, like Jonathan say, either contact or tell us now or contact Jonathan or me. But this is my email address, so yes, if you want to make note, that's great. Please include the title for each image, just so I know what you are referring to, okay? We may look at a few examples on Thursday at the launch of the module, if we have time, but I do have quite a lot of information to give you, but I do want to look at a few examples quickly, okay? In any case, your images will need to be printed out for your sketchbook and first tutorial by Friday, 27th of September. So do keep those images and print them, but you will be explained how to do that with the facilities here, okay? So it can be just a Xerox print, just as a starting point, and these will form the beginning or the starting points for our discussions, but also for your RDB, the Research and Development book or folder. So, to get to the bottom of it, is the list of words which we established. So there are 24 here. Like I said, you only need to respond to 10. One image per title. So we have anonymity, non-place, the other, the non-human, home, monument, myth, transition, boundary, fictive, public, work, stage, surveillance, performance, power, transience, fringe, passion, ritual, neutral, silence, ruins, and memory. So quite a wide range of things. Many of them, like we said, mean multiple things and could be interpreted in many various ways. So don't think about it too much. Just try to respond quickly, discuss amongst yourself, and explore. So that's it. Shall I give those out now?
Should I take a snapshot of the list?
You
or
have
or
the-
you've got the list? Okay.
So I'll just pass it on.
Put some in the back.
Whilst you're receiving those, if you just
Are there any questions about this? So key things. Form groups of 4. Select and respond to 10 titles, 1 image per title. Send it to my email address, which you've received, but you also have seen the link to this information slide, and you also have it on this bit of paper. So send it before Thursday, okay? And in any case, you need to print those out for next week, okay? But we'll discuss that again on Thursday. So enjoy that for now.
I'm not going to go through this with you. It's basically but just so you're aware of it. Because you are being asked to go out into the city with various things you need to be aware of. It's just generally take care of yourself and your group. Don't stand in the road and take pictures, don't pick fights with people. All those things. It's kind of covered down. I'm not going to go through it in more detail. So we're nearly there now, but this is the most important bit. It's essential that you attend these things. Just if you do nothing else, do this, and that's go to the health and safety talks on Thursday midday. Right. Hands up who's group 1. Great.
Right.
Hands down who's group 2. And then at 2 o'clock on Thursday, you've got my launch of the module, which this will relate to. So do come to those things.
Jonathan, can I quickly add to that and stress that like next Monday you have to come to that. It will change your life. It will be amazing. Do not miss it, please. I'm just aware that Freshers Week, I was a fresher, we all were, and I know how easy it is to get caught up in all the other stuff and to be some kind of like 5 drinks for a £2 deal on Sunday night and you think that's a good idea. That's fine. I don't care if you come in here and you've had 4 hours sleep and you're bleeding out your eyeballs, but be here because it's so important. Actually, I do care, like, but don't make me be able to tell. But like, yeah, just if you crawl up here, I'll get your friends to carry you. Just be here on Monday, please.
Yeah,
Okay.
there is the importance of some of these inductions, like the health and safety inductions.
Fantastic.
And
Sunday
some
night
of,
shoot.
some of James's inductions. If you don't actually come to those, then you will find yourself in a position where you are unable to get equipment or to use facilities, and that you don't want to find yourself in that position. That's really awkward, and it's sorting out by us, but also by you, having to sort of try and ask for other sessions, which is very, very difficult. So that's why it's in your interest and our interest that you turn up, especially to the health and safety stuff and any inductions for any equipment, because else you'll be severely compromised in your ability to proceed, which you don't want, really. We might. Okay, so we're going to go on a tour. We're going to split into 4 groups. So basically, we're going to split the groups 1 and 2 in half again. But we don't need to remember it this time. We just need to sort of do it. So these are the places we're going to go to. People,
Jonathan.
You can find this on Moodle.
Spinnaker.
Okay.
It's the sports centre when we go.
Oh, right, good. Another Spinnaker Tower.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Okay, I should take a picture of this as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to stagger this because that's when we'll end up with a mass of 40 people all together. So if the first 10 here could go with Leslie.
Yeah, I'll start. Come this way.
Yeah, and then we'll just wait a few minutes till the next group goes.
Actually, shouldn't